Sorry, it's just. William said, but he broke off without being able to continue. Easy, Mr. William, I understand, Victoria said tenderly. Your sister told me what you had to do for her. You're a very admirable young lady, Victoria, William told him truthfully. No, I only do what anyone would do for family. When you are responsible for a child who carries your blood and who you love, Victoria replied modestly. William felt a lot of things stir inside him again. After a few minutes, Victoria was saying goodbye to William because she and Kate were to go up to see their mother. Victoria, I've arranged for Joe stays with the limo to take you home. He will wait for the time that is necessary. I will return in another of my cars, said William, very kind, charming. No, please. It's not necessary, I do not want to abuse your generosity. I do not want to be profiteer, Victoria replied with much embarrassment. I insist. If you do not accept my offer, I will see it as a snub. And do not worry, I love driving my other cars, William answered. At that moment there was a loud engine noise and a car, a Lamborghini Veneno Roadster, appeared in the hospital parking lot, which stopped at some distance from them, next to the limo. A young man got out of the car and waved at William, who responded with a gesture to wait for him at the side of the car. It's your other car, Victoria said perplexedly. Yes, he answered quietly. I want to ride in that car, Kate exclaimed excitedly. Kate? Victoria rebuked her. Maybe another day. See you ladies, said William, waving a charming smile. See you later, Lord Willie. William, Victoria said uncertainly on what to call him, thank you very much, for everything. You are an angel. William walked away from them and approached Joe and the man who came down from the Lamborghini. Thank you, Alfred. Get on the co-pilot's seat, let's go, he said to the young man. Joe, take them home, please, and write down the address, I'll need that information, William said. Yes, sir, replied Joe, expressionless. William got behind the wheel of the Lamborghini and he left with a roar the engine. Victoria and Kate stared at each other for a moment, then entered. That night William was sitting in his favorite armchair, drinking a glass of wine, thoughtful. Then he took the cell phone from the table and dialed a number from the device's memory. Hello, yes, good evening to you too, William said in a relaxed, thoughtful tone. I need a personal security report on Victoria Walker. Your address, I send it to you in a message to your cell phone. It must be absolutely exhaustive. Life, especially your relationships and your private life, top priority. I need it as soon as possible, thank you. William took the rest of the glass in one gulp and threw his head back, deep in thought. Chapter 2, The Day Her Life Changed. Lord William has taken an uncommon decision regarding Victoria, and his plans will put the girl's life in his hands. But how will she react to such an incredible intervention in her life? The next day, William was in a large, luxurious, modern office in an office tower. The office had a stunning view of London. William was walking with one hand pressing a stress ball, listening to what was said by a tall, thin, bad-looking man who looked like a policeman or a secret agent. Victoria Walker, 18 years old, will turn 19 in a couple of months. Her exact date of birth is in the report, read aloud the man in a folder in his hands. For more than a year she works at full-time as a waitress in a big cafe in central London. She lives with her younger sister in a small apartment in Enfield. Her economic situation is very precarious. Her owes 2 months of rent and soon it will be 3 months. Her father Edward Walker was military, a sergeant of the Royal British Army. He was destined in Afghanistan and Iraq, died 5 years ago. In the war? William asked, interested and compassionate. No, on his return from his last mission on the foreign, he was kept out of service for psychological reasons, and shortly afterwards he asked for the discharge and they granted it. But in his civil life he showed many problems, originated for post-traumatic stress disorder. he ended up becoming alcoholic and had serious problems with his wife, and in the end they separated. Shortly afterwards he suffered an accident while driving drunk and died. "A sad and unworthy end for a veteran," murmured William. Victoria's mother and Edward's widow is Louise Walker, maiden name Leib Brandt. "Leib Brandt?" William asked in surprise. "Yes, she's German. She met her husband when he was destined at a NATO military facility in Germany. They married and came to live in Britain. She was a nurse practitioner, but since she became ill almost 2 years ago she could not continue working. She has been hospitalized for 8 months. She has a rare disease whose diagnosis and nature are contained in the report. It is a very unpredictable and risky disease. Its prognosis is difficult. Her can die today, or to have an improvement and live a few years more, but in any case with many limitations, especially her motor skill. A family cursed by fate," William exclaimed, remembering his own misfortune. "And as for Victoria's personal life, is she promiscuous? Do she have vices, alcohol, drugs?" "No, the girl is clean. She does not even smoke and drink very little alcohol. She seems to have developed a certain aversion to alcohol because of the alcoholism of her late father. She does not have a love record very long. It seems that she has had a single boyfriend in high school and it seems that they ended up poorly. Apparently she does not have an active sex life, and since her mother's illness worsened she hardly has a social life. She only has 2 friends whom she sees frequently, and both work with her, and usually they see each other at work or in Victoria's apartment. As for the issue of safeguarding, it is true that they want to remove custody of her sister to give it to a maternal aunt who lives in London. But it is not because of her personal behavior, because even the social workers recognize that she is an exemplary sister and substitute mother in such a difficult situation. It is due to being very young and their economic situation. They do not believe that she alone can with the responsibility. "I understand, thank you, it's a very thorough work as usual. I'll read the rest myself, thank you very much," said William. "A pleasure to serve you, Lord William," said the man, putting the report on the desk and retreating. William walked to the large windows and glanced at the landscape of London, still squeezing the stress ball. To communicate with Jane, William said aloud. "Lord William," said a pleasant female voice over a loudspeaker. "Jane, I need you to contact an individual whose information I'm going to give you. I also need you to speak to the managers responsible for relations with the local authorities in London. I need to know who we meet at the Enfield Council as soon as possible," said William in a calm tone. Another day later, Victoria was in her apartment helping her sister with homework, when the doorbell rang. Victoria went to open the door. She was dressed in a vaporous short dress and walked barefoot, and with displeasure met her landlord. "Mr. Davies, forgive me, but Victoria said, feeling miserable and humiliated, and preparing for Mr. Davies's rage and rude manners. "No, do not worry, Miss Walker," replied Mr. Davies, fat, short and middle-aged, with a rather disheveled appearance and ugly face. "Miss Walker!" Victoria exclaimed in surprise, for she was accustomed to him calling her simply Victoria, when he did not give her other insulting qualifiers. "Yes, Miss Walker. I only came to bring you this," he said, handing her some papers. "And what is this? The eviction order?" Victoria asked with some fear and anger. "Of course not. It's the receipts for a whole year's rent from her apartment, which were already cancelled in advance," said Mr. Davies helpfully. "What? Are you trying to tell me that someone has paid a whole year's rent of my house? You make fun of me?" Victoria asked in disbelief and anger. "Not at all. Your friend paid me with cash," Mr. Davies defended. "What friend? I do not know what you're talking about," Victoria exclaimed, confused. "Lord William Maybourne." Victoria froze and her face paled with surprise. Kate heard the conversation rise and ran to the door. "William said he would help us. You see, Victoria, he's taking care of us." "Kate, come back to your chores," Victoria exclaimed in a scolding tone. Kate came back grumbling to the table. "Well, I'll leave the receipts for you. Up to 1 year you will not have to worry about rent." "Goodbye, Miss Walker," said Mr. Davies, who remembered his conversation with the powerful man in the back seat of a limousine as he saw the driver's gunslinger's face and remembered the courteous but intimidating warning of the Lord to treat Victoria well. Victoria closed the door and walked to the table where her sister worked with the receipts in her hands. "This cannot," Victoria was about to say, but then the apartment phone rang.